Translate. She should translate the price of a free lunch. His laughter echoed through the room, tearing apart the little pride Amara Velasquez still had. A janitor in a luxury building in Seattle, she lowered her head, not knowing that this humiliation would become the start of her greatest lesson. Behind the simple uniform, Amara hid a secret. She spoke 5 languages and carried a past the world had forgotten. And it would take just $1 million mistake, one bad translation, for the invisible woman to prove that wisdom doesn't wear a suit, it wears courage. Subscribe to Fire Story and discover how one phrase of contempt became the turning point of her life. That glass and steel building reflected Seattle's gray sky as if trying to prove that power could have its own kind of shine. Amara Velasquez, wearing her simple green uniform and hair tied in a rushed bun, pushed her cleaning cart quietly down the hallways, trying not to draw attention. Muffled voices came from the main conference room, where suited executives mixed arrogance with the scent of expensive coffee. She knew she wasn't supposed to listen, but it was impossible not to. When someone mentioned the investor from New York, a chill ran down her spine. That was the kind of person who looked at others as if they had a price tag, not value. While she polished a corner of the glossy floor, Amara listened to the laughter and the stream of technical English words that reminded her of a past she preferred to forget. Life had a cruel sense of humor. Years ago, she had been in meetings like that too, but as a respected translator. Now she was cleaning floors. Each spray of disinfectant was a reminder that life can turn upside down in a heartbeat. The wet rag, the cheap gloves, the name badge with faded letters, all of it screamed, "You fell." But what no one knew was that behind that tired look, there was a secret. A secret that, soon, would turn humiliation into a lesson. "Hey, miss!" A deep, impatient voice interrupted. Amara looked up, startled. A tall man in an expensive gray suit stared at her with a half-smile of disdain. It was Elliot Crane, the new millionaire investor, known for buying companies like People Change watches. "You speak English, right? I mean, enough to order coffee, I suppose." The executives laughed, complicit in his mockery. Amara forced a polite smile and nodded. "Yes, sir, I speak English." Elliot raised an eyebrow, amused. "Oh, then maybe you can translate the price of a free lunch." The room burst into laughter. The humiliation cut deep, but she held herself together. The sound of laughter echoed off the tiles like hammer blows. That kind of laugh, the cruel kind, not the happy one, she knew too well. It was the same laugh she'd heard years ago when she applied for a restaurant job and the manager mocked the idea of a teacher mopping floors. The world has a special talent for mocking those who carry dignity in silence. Amara lowered her head, focusing on the shining floor that now reflected the expensive shoes of the man who had just ridiculed her. Shoes that probably cost what she earned in 2 months. Inside, a storm brewed. Elliot's words felt like shards of glass in her chest. But instead of anger, she felt something different, a quiet determination to prove him wrong. "The world turns, Mr. Crane," she whispered softly in Spanish, so no one understood. Her heart raced, not from fear, but from a kind of courage she didn't know she possessed. Without realizing it, that moment of humiliation was the first step of her transformation. While the men discussed contracts and million-dollar deals, Amara noticed something odd. The official translator, a well-dressed young man with thin glasses, looked nervous. The Japanese executive across the table spoke precisely, but something about the translation felt off. She frowned. "That's not what he's saying," she thought, but pushed the idea aside. Who would listen to a janitor, anyway? Still, her trained mind, honed by years of study and experience, picked up every nuance, every subtle mistake the others missed. "Amara, careful with that bucket," her co-worker called from across the room, snapping her out of her thoughts. She smiled awkwardly and went back to work, but her mind was elsewhere. Something about that meeting stirred old memories, back when she taught languages to diplomats and dreamed of opening a language school in Honduras. Everything had fallen apart when her husband got sick and they lost their home. Life had swapped her books for mops, but not erased what she knew. Knowledge is the one possession that can't be stolen, and the world was about to learn that. Inside the conference room, Elliot continued to lead with the same smug smile. He gestured and spoke loudly, as if trying to prove that money could buy respect. Mr. Wallace, the CEO, watched carefully but stayed silent. He believed in results, not speeches. Amara, meanwhile, just observed. With every arrogant word, every condescending glance, she felt closer to an invisible breaking point. Will these people ever understand the weight of the word humility? She wondered. By nearly 7 o'clock, the translator started to stumble over the more complex phrases. Amara noticed the confused looks from the Japanese guests and the rising tension in the room. Something was wrong. She gripped the rag in her hand, torn between staying quiet or speaking up. "It's not my place," she murmured. But deep down, she knew there might never be a right place for someone born to be underestimated. The humiliation still echoed inside her, but something else whispered that her moment to act was near. Right then, as Elliot let out another mocking laugh and the translator tripped over his words, Amara felt a strange shiver. It was as if the entire universe held its breath, waiting. The air grew heavy. Silence took shape. Her eyes lifted, steady and ready to break the cycle. And there, between a cleaning rag and a mistranslated phrase, fate began to change languages. In the days that followed that meeting, the hallway that once ignored Amara began to whisper her name. Not with admiration yet, but with that thinly veiled curiosity people have when they sense something unusual in the air. As she pushed her cleaning cart, she noticed the glances, the hushed conversations that stopped when she passed. It was as if the humiliation she endured had switched on an invisible spotlight. But Amara, skilled in the art of survival, pretended not to notice. Her secret was the kind of treasure the world only discovers when it's too late to doubt. Mr. Wallace, the CEO, saw her as just another hard-working employee. He respected everyone but rarely looked beyond titles. He believed in diplomas, not stories. That's why he would never imagine that this quiet woman, with hands worn by disinfectant, had once been a respected linguistics professor at the National University of Tegucigalpa. Before Seattle, before the cleaning job, Amara had been a certified translator, fluent in 5 languages, including Japanese, the very language that would soon bring her face to face again with a millionaire who mocked her. Amara's nights were silent. In her small apartment, shared with an elderly neighbor, she kept boxes of old notebooks, scribbled dictionaries, and faded certificates, items that had lost their market value but not their meaning. Sometimes, as she dusted the shelf, her fingers brushed the yellowed diploma, and she whispered, "I still know all of this." It was her secret, the thing that kept her standing through the chaos. The world could call her a janitor, but her mind still belonged to another universe, the world of words and meanings. One morning, while cleaning Mr. Wallace's office, she overheard a tense phone call. They didn't understand Clause 14, and the translator couldn't explain it. His voice sounded anxious. Amara froze, her heartbeat quickening. The Japanese phrases coming faintly from the speakerphone meant something completely different from what Wallace believed. She took a deep breath and kept cleaning, but the words hammered in her mind. They're about to sign something wrong, something big, a mistake that could cost a fortune. And, without knowing it, the fate of everyone in that building rested on an invisible woman. At noon, she met her co-worker Lydia in the cafeteria. "You seem distant, amiga," Lydia said, handing her a cup of coffee. Amara smiled faintly. "Just thinking about life. Sometimes it's hard to carry a secret and not say anything." "Secret?" Lydia frowned. "Nothing. Just nonsense," Amara said, looking away. But it wasn't nonsense. It was the burden of knowing she could help, but not being heard. How many people in that building thought they were smart, yet couldn't grasp the simplest form of respect? It was a lesson destiny would soon make them learn. That afternoon, Elliot Crane returned. Same suit, same expensive cologne, same look of superiority. He walked the halls like he owned the air. "The Japanese investor is coming again," someone said. Elliot smirked. "Let's hope the translator doesn't mess it up this time." The remark made Amara's blood run cold. The memory of her humiliation came rushing back, along with the spark of a new purpose. "You'll eat those words, millionaire," she thought, pretending not to hear. The following days were tense. The whole company was preparing for the next round of negotiations. Amara, without knowing why, began reviewing vocabulary, expressions, conjugations in her head. While scrubbing floors, she whispered Japanese words under her breath, as if rehearsing for something inevitable. Each word was a fragment of her past resurfacing. It was as if the old teacher inside her had begun to breathe again. "One day, this will mean something," she told herself, never imagining how close that day really was. One night after hours, she found herself alone at the office. She sat at the conference table, the same one where she'd been humiliated, and looked at her face reflected in the glass. The city lights danced on the buildings outside, a reminder that the world doesn't sleep, it watches. "You are not what they tried to make you," she whispered to the mirror, as if speaking to another version of herself. It was a mantra, a reminder, a quiet pact between her and her secret. Meanwhile, Mr. Wallace was upstairs reviewing documents. He believed everything was under control. He had no idea his company was walking into a language mistake that would cost millions. No idea that the solution was already there, holding a rag and a razor-sharp vocabulary. And no idea that the most expensive lesson of his life wouldn't come from an MBA, but from a janitor. That night, when Amara switched off the lights and left the building, a light drizzle fell over Seattle. The cold wind cut through her thin uniform, but she barely felt it. What she felt was her heart beating differently, like something big was getting close. And without knowing it, the same woman who had translated tears to survive was about to translate her own destiny. The next morning broke gray, with the wind pounding against the tower's high windows. Inside the conference room, the air was thick, almost heavy. Everyone was tense, waiting for the meeting with the Japanese group to begin. Amara, as always, was there before everyone, cleaning, organizing, getting the room ready for the big names. Every step she took sounded like a prelude. She tried to ignore the weight of the earlier humiliation, but Elliot's words still echoed, "Translate the price of a free lunch," the kind of line that sticks to your soul. The kind of insult time doesn't erase, it only transforms. Executives rushed in, checking tablets and trading looks. The official interpreter straightened his papers, visibly nervous. Amara quietly wiped a last coffee stain off the table when she heard the Japanese investor greet the room with a slight nod. She understood every word, every nuance of his accent, a detail no one else seemed to catch. Her heart sped up. It felt like being back in the university conference rooms where she once taught. Only now, she was invisible. Invisible, but awake. Mr. Wallace walked in, imposing, trying to hide his nerves behind a polite smile. Elliot Crane, the arrogant millionaire, was already seated, filling the room with confidence and expensive cologne. "Today's the day we make history, gentlemen," he said, grinning at the cameras. Amara watched in silence, like someone watching a play whose ending she already knew, faulty script and all. She moved slowly toward the door, but something inside made her stop. A hunch. The same instinct that saves people who've already lost everything. The meeting started, and the interpreter began. The Japanese sounded calm, but the English version didn't add up. Small errors, subtle omissions, context flipped around. Amara frowned. It was serious. One badly translated term, and the investment clause could turn into a trap. "They're saying the opposite," she murmured under her breath, unheard. Her stomach tightened, her palms damp. What if she spoke up? The idea was unthinkable. Who would believe a janitor? But silence, this time, would be too expensive. Suddenly, the oldest Japanese executive paused. He looked at the interpreter, then at Wallace, and said something in a firm tone. The interpreter hesitated, swallowed hard, and translated, "They want to cancel the deal." A ripple of shock ran through the room. Elliot slammed the table, irritated. "Cancel? Are you kidding me?" Chaos broke out. That's when Amara felt something stronger than fear. The same force that rises when the soul decides enough is enough. She took a breath, wiped her hands on her uniform, and stepped forward. "Sorry to interrupt." Everyone turned. Silence fell. Elliot raised an eyebrow, incredulous. "What is this?" "The janitor wants in on the meeting now." The laughs came back, but softer this time. Amara swallowed, heart pounding. "I'm sorry, but the translation is wrong." The sentence hung in the air like thunder. "He didn't say, cancel," he said, "review the clauses." "That's a big difference." The interpreter went pale. The older Japanese executive lifted his eyes, surprised. Elliot burst out laughing. "Oh, sure. And where'd you learn Japanese? Cleaning sushi?" She could have backed off. Could have stayed quiet. But she didn't. Amara squared her shoulders and, with the calm only deep secrets can give, started translating. Word for word. Tone for tone. Fluent. Precise. Natural. The Japanese executive frowned, not in anger, but in surprise. With each sentence, he nodded along. Wallace watched, frozen, like he was seeing something impossible. And Elliot sank into his chair, his smile stuck on his face. When she finished, the room was silent. The official interpreter, red with shame, apologized. The older Japanese executive stood and, in front of everyone, gave Amara a slight bow. It was a simple gesture, but full of meaning. That moment was worth more than any fortune. It was respect giving back what humiliation had stolen. Wallace looked at her, still stunned. "Ms. Velasquez, where did you learn that?" Amara took a breath. "It's a long story, sir. And it started long before this floor." The tension melted into restrained applause. A few executives, not knowing where to hide their shame, forced a smile. Elliot tried to pull himself together, but his face gave him away. "Well, I guess we've got a bilingual janitor." Amara met his eyes, steady. "No, sir. Just someone who learned that respect has no language." The reply was dry, firm, and cut through the air like a blade. Wallace lowered his eyes. The millionaire, finally, had nothing to say. While the interpreter gathered his papers, the meeting went on, now under Amara's quiet watch. Wallace whispered something to an assistant, still in disbelief. She simply stepped back to her corner as if nothing had happened, but inside, something had changed for good. The weight of humiliation had given way to the lightness of dignity restored. And without knowing it, that silent act had just changed the company's course, and everyone's lives there. Time itself seemed to hold its breath when Amara finished the last sentence in Japanese. The room's cold lights carved out their stunned faces, and Seattle glittered beyond the windows like a movie set whose script had just been rewritten. The silence wasn't doubt, it was respect, the same respect humiliation had ripped from her and that now returned like a rising tide. The official interpreter lowered his eyes and muttered an almost inaudible apology. The senior Japanese executive stood, straightened his jacket, and, like someone carefully returning something precious, bowed in gratitude. "Arigato, Velasquez-san." The gesture moved through the room like a beam of light. Mr. Wallace touched his chest, as if feeling his own pulse again. Elliot, the millionaire, fiddled with his gold watch to hide behind a throwaway gesture. But time, in that moment, didn't answer to his watch. "So, we'll review the clauses, not cancel anything," Mr. Wallace repeated, almost to himself, as if tasting salvation letter by letter. The Japanese negotiator agreed and brought back to the table the small smile of someone who values precision. "The proposal stands. Only adjustments." It confirmed that the worst had passed, and that the mistake, which could have cost a fortune, had been stopped by a woman who'd been invisible 5 minutes earlier. Elliot cleared his throat, looking for an exit. "Well, lucky us," he tried. And Amara, calm, replied without raising her voice. "It wasn't luck. It was paying attention." The word moved through the room like a simple, non-negotiable lesson. Wallace took back control with the calm of someone who knows he's been given a second chance. "Let's record the changes to Clause 14 and confirm the deadlines," he said, while legal typed furiously. The official interpreter, embarrassed, offered to continue. Amara gave a short nod. Go ahead. But every Japanese line now came with a confirming glance from the investor himself, who had unknowingly found in Amara his anchor point. Elliot watched it all with the smile of someone who loves a show when it favors him. This time though, the stage wasn't his. It belonged to the truth. And the truth had a voice, an accent, and a name. The deal was rewritten in record time, as if the right words opened secret doors in the hallways of bureaucracy. Done, the negotiator said, extending his hand to Wallace. Soft applause, relieved breaths, a few smiles trying to hide the scare. The interpreter moved to leave first, but the Japanese executive stopped him, walked over to Amara, and bowed again, this time, deeper. Honor is recognizing those who spare us from error. Elliot looked away. What was supposed to be his day of triumph had become the stage for a lesson humiliation could never predict. The millionaire understood. Money buys tables, not semantic conscience. In the hallway, the news spread fast. Assistants who used to pass her without noticing now whispered, "Is that the janitor?" and quickly corrected themselves. "No, that's Ms. Velasquez." Like any secret that meets the light, the story spread without anyone needing to tell it. Amara walked slowly, feeling that strange mix of relief and caution that comes when you get your voice back after years. "I only did what was right," she told Lydia, who hugged her tight. "Doing right changes everything," her friend replied, eyes wet. And inside, Mr. Wallace prepared his next words. Not a speech, but a repair. "Velasquez, a minute, please." His voice was clear, steady. Amara stepped into the now empty room, the table shining like a glass lake. Wallace took a breath. "I failed you by not seeing. The company failed." He didn't dress it up or pass the blame. "I want to apologize and propose something." She stayed quiet, her heartbeat sounding like footsteps on a familiar stage. "Head of International Communications," he said, "no drama, because justice doesn't need trumpets. If you accept, you start tomorrow. Competitive salary, a team, and the freedom to build the department the way you believe." For a second, Amara thought of the past, the diploma in a box, the husband who taught her never to bargain with dignity. "I accept," she said, and the word felt like it washed the whole room clean. That's when Elliot walked in without knocking, wearing a smile that tried to stay neutral. "Congratulations," he said, and the word wobbled in the air. He cleared his throat. "I was out of line." Wallace folded his arms. Amara waited, unmoved. Elliot went on. "The humiliation was unnecessary. I learned. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a start." Amara nodded, with the calm of someone who knows the cost of forgiveness. "The lesson's been given," she said. "And it's always more expensive for those who have everything." The millionaire offered a short, quiet smile, without defending himself. That day, he learned there are defeats that save us, and victories that don't make a sound. The next day, a temporary plaque appeared in the lobby. The letters weren't golden yet, but they already shimmered with meaning. A person's worth isn't in the clothes they wear, but in the wisdom they carry. Employees stopped to read it, breathing a little differently. Some remembered their own arrogance and easy laughter. Others thought about the times they'd felt invisible. The message was a mirror framed to fit every conscience. Amara walked by early, rested her hand on the cool metal, and smiled with her eyes. There was no vanity, just restoration. The quiet certainty that the right lesson, at the right time, can change generations. Her first meeting as head of international communications took place that same week. Amara, elegant in a navy blue blazer, led the team with calmness, clarity, and a kind of kindness that no one could mistake for weakness. "Precision is respect," she said as she opened the meeting. "When we translate poorly, we lie without meaning to." The team took notes, fascinated. Without realizing it, every verb she spoke carried the memory of her humiliation, now transformed into fuel. For the first time, Elliot listened without interrupting, absorbing each word. Costly for him, cheap for the company. Costly for his pride, cheap for his soul. That afternoon, Wallace called her to the main hall. A newly installed plaque awaited one last detail. "I'd like you to sign the quote," he said. "You're the reason it exists." Amara held the pen, hesitated. "It's not mine. It belongs to everyone who's ever been invisible," she replied, handing it back. Wallace smiled. "Then we'll leave it unsigned, but not without responsibility." He turned to the gathered employees. "Let this be our compass." It was more than a tribute, it was policy. Transformation was no longer a moment, it had become culture. Amara went down the back stairs alone, leaving behind the whispers and emotion. In her pocket, a new access card. In her hands, the same calluses of someone who never abandoned honest work. Her phone buzzed, a message from her elderly neighbor. "So proud of you, my dear." Amara took a deep breath. Outside, the light rain washed over Seattle, making everything look clearer. She stopped at the glass doors, caught her reflection, and smiled. "It wasn't luck. It was the path," she whispered. And as the city returned to its noise, one thought crossed her mind like both warning and promise. Every turnaround comes with a price. The next morning, before work, something new awaited her in the elevator. A plain envelope, no sender, only her name handwritten. Inside, a small card. "Some secrets don't stay hidden forever." Amara frowned, her heart alert. The handwriting wasn't Wallace's. Not Lydia's. And definitely not the millionaire's. There was more at play than a saved contract, and that message, subtle and mysterious, seemed to open a door to a hallway she didn't yet know. The following days carried a curious calm. The company seemed to breathe differently, as if the walls themselves had learned something. The story of the humiliation, once whispered behind hands, was now told with admiration. "Did you see what the janitor did?" "Janitor?" "No, head of communications," others corrected, and the tone changed. Amara Velasquez walked the halls with the serenity of someone who had won without raising her voice. Her uniform had changed, but her gaze hadn't. Steady, watchful, carrying a secret only she knew. The secret of turning pain into dignity. One rainy afternoon, Mr. Wallace called her into the main hall. "I want you to see something," he said, pointing at the new golden plaque gleaming under the lights. "A person's worth isn't in the clothes they wear, but in the wisdom they carry." Amara read it slowly, letting each word sink in. "Beautiful," she murmured. Wallace nodded. "Beautiful and true. That phrase saved this company. Maybe it even saved me." She looked up, surprised by his honesty. "Wisdom is like that, Mr. Wallace," she said softly. "The lesson hurts, but it heals." He nodded in silence. That same night, millionaire Elliot Crane returned to the building for a quick meeting. When he crossed paths with Amara in the hallway, he hesitated. "Velasquez," he said, testing the word like it was new. She stopped, calm. "Mr. Crane." He took a breath. "I always thought power meant speaking louder. Now I see, it's listening to those no one hears." Amara smiled faintly. "Took a while, but you learned. Humiliation's a good teacher. Shame it charges so much." Elliot laughed awkwardly. "I paid in full." The light tone couldn't hide the real respect beneath. There was no bitterness, just a lesson completed. In the following days, Amara's name began to travel beyond the company walls. Local newspapers quietly reported the story of the janitor who saved $1 million deal. The story went viral online, reigniting an old debate about prejudice and invisible talent. But Amara wasn't chasing fame. She still took the subway, greeted the doorman by name, and brought flowers to her elderly neighbor. Success to her wasn't a headline, it was being able to sleep in peace, with nothing left to prove. One morning, she received an unexpected email from her old university in Honduras. "We're reopening the linguistics department and would love to have you as a guest speaker." Amara read it several times, hardly believing it. "After all these years," she whispered. Lydia, curious, asked what it was. "A chance," Amara said. "A chance to show that no talent dies. Sometimes it just changes address." It was the circle closing, the universe giving back, as an invitation, what it once took away through humiliation. The week of the event, Elliot sent flowers to her office. The card read simply, "I've learned that true wealth is recognizing greatness, even when it wears gloves." Amara read it and smiled. No irony, just understanding. She placed the card in her drawer between her old dictionaries and thought, some apologies don't need sound, only time. The secret of greatness, after all, is not letting pride speak louder than growth. When Wallace saw the flowers, he only said, "Looks like even the millionaire got the message." Amara replied, "Some lessons need a fall to stick." During the conference, the auditorium was full. Lights, cameras, eager students. Amara took the stage in a simple suit, her badge shining under the spotlight. "I once translated for a plate of food," she began, voice steady. "But I discovered the hardest language to translate is respect." Gentle laughter, then applause. True wisdom isn't measured by titles, but by the courage to keep your character when the world tries to take it from you. At the back of the room, a young student cried, hearing her own mother's story in those words. That's why Amara was there, not for pride, but for purpose. After the event, a young reporter approached her. "Ms. Velasquez, if you could sum up everything you've lived in one sentence, what would it be?" She thought for a moment, looked at the microphone, and answered calmly, "Never laugh at someone who's quiet. Sometimes, they understand more than everyone who's talking." The reporter fell silent, and the camera captured the light in her eyes, the light of someone who had learned to turn humiliation into legacy. It was the last translation the world needed from her. On her way home, the subway rocked gently, cradling old thoughts. The reflection in the window showed not just the woman she was now, but all the ones she'd had to be. The teacher, the wife, the immigrant, the janitor, the leader. Each version had left a scar, and a lesson. And without realizing it, all that pain had become the language she now spoke best, empathy. The secret of life, she concluded, is to never lose faith while cleaning the floor, because sometimes, that's where you get the best view of the sky. When she got home, she set her badge on the table and lit a small candle in gratitude. "Thank you, Lord," she whispered. "Even the humiliation was necessary for me to hear your voice." As the flame flickered, a quiet smile formed. The lesson was complete. Amara slept in peace, knowing that in the end, her victory wasn't over Elliot, nor the company, it was over fear. If this story touched your heart, like the video, subscribe to Fire Story, and comment where you're watching from. Because stories like this remind us that no one is invisible when they carry wisdom and faith.